Silver Polar Bear coins by calling Lear Capital at 1-800-401-9722. And we'll include our Silver Investor Report. The first 50 callers also get this DVD on the potential currency crisis and the dramatic impact on your money. Call 1-800-401-9722 now.
I'm Morgan Spurlock, and this is CNN.
In Crime and Punishment tonight, a convicted baby killer will soon walk free in Texas, even though she's serving a 99-year sentence and is suspected of murdering dozens of other children. Genene Jones is a former pediatric nurse who parents trusted to care for their children. Instead, she allegedly targeted them. Now, this convicted murderer has a perfectly legal way out of prison, and law enforcement has only one way of keeping her inside. That's by finding another victim whose life was cut short, like Chelsea McClellan's. Here's Randy Kay.
Back in 1982, Chelsea McClellan, just 15 months old, needed immunizations. It was routine stuff. Chelsea's mother, Petty, took her to the local clinic in Kerrville, Texas. But what happened next was anything but routine. That's because Genene Jones was the nurse on duty at the clinic. Chelsea's mom remembers what happened next, when all hell broke loose.
She gave her her first shot in her left thigh, and she immediately started sort of gasping for air, turned around and gave her another one. And she immediately just went limp and quit breathing.
In the chaos of rushing Chelsea from the clinic to the hospital, Genene Jones somehow slipped into the ambulance and gave the little girl a third shot. Petty would later learn the nurse had injected her daughter with a drug called succinyl choline, which causes muscle relaxation and short-term paralysis. It stopped Chelsea's heart. 2 years later, in 1984, Jones was convicted of infanticide and sentenced to 99 years in prison for killing Chelsea, plus 60 years for injuring another child who had survived. To this day, she still says she did nothing wrong.
Ms. Jones, do you have any reaction at all?
For Chelsea's parents, the verdict was bittersweet. Their daughter was gone, but her killer would spend the rest of her life behind bars. At least that's what they thought. It turns out Genene Jones is scheduled to walk free.
Jones will be automatically released because of an old Texas law designed to prevent prison overcrowding. The mandatory release law allows inmates convicted of violent crimes between 1977 and 1987 to be automatically released if their good behavior credit plus time served equals their sentence. The law was changed in 1987 to exclude violent criminals, but it isn't retroactive.
It's now a game of beat the clock. Chelsea's mother and Andy Kahn, a victims advocate for the city of Houston, are desperately trying to find other mothers whose babies may also have been killed by Genene Jones. A new conviction could keep her locked up. Otherwise, Kahn believes she'll be the first serial killer ever to walk free.
And in reality, she'll have served less than 1 year for every infant she is credited with murdering. It's unheard of, and it's never happened before in our country's history.
Sadly, there's reason to believe other victims exist. When Jones worked at Bear Hospital in San Antonio between 1978 and 1982, her shift became known as the death shift because so many babies were mysteriously dying. Sherry Pendergraft worked alongside her.
The death rate was higher than it had been in previous months and previous years as I went back. So we started to question, why is that happening? And I also noticed that it tended to concentrate more on the 3 to 11 shift, which was the shift that Genene was working mostly.
Genene Jones was suspected of killing as many as 46 babies, but was only charged in the death of Chelsea McClellan. Kahn's job is only complicated by the fact that many of the victims' records were either destroyed or disappeared. But so far, 2 mothers have reached out to him. Marina Rodriguez lost her son in 1981 after, she says, Genene Jones gave him a shot at a San Antonio clinic. At just 5 months old, he had a heart attack and died.
You know, all of a sudden he turned blue, and all of a sudden I start hurting cold blue. And then, and then of course they put me to the side because I'm a young mommy and I'm freaking out.
Back then, Marina was just 15. Too young to afford a lawyer. Her parents were migrant farmers. Marina couldn't even read.
How
would you feel if she got out?
She's not getting out. She's not going to get out. If my son has to be exhumed to prove that she murdered him, then that's the step we'll take. They're not dealing with a little girl anymore. This is a woman now.
Marina Rodriguez and the other families are Petty McClellan Weiss's only hope.
30 years in prison is not justice. It's not justice for Chelsea.
Randy Kay, CNN, Houston.
Under that expired Texas law, Genene Jones will walk free in 2017. A lot of people, understandably, are outraged over that. No one more than Petty McClellan Weiss. We just saw in Randy's piece, her 15-month-old daughter, Chelsea, was killed by Jones. Ms. McClellan, thank you so much for being with us, and my condolences to you on the loss of your daughter, Chelsea. I can't imagine what this has been like. When you heard that she could go free, what did you think?
Well, the first time I heard it, I didn't even acknowledge it because I thought it was absolutely impossible. And I really didn't realize that it was going to happen. It was, unless another case was found, till probably about 6 months ago.
And you're convinced?
I was horrified.
You're convinced that Jones could do this again?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And anybody that knew her and has dealt with her, that was across the board, that's an agreement with everybody.
This nurse who killed your daughter, I can't begin to imagine why someone would do something like that. Did she seem like there was something off about her when you actually saw her?
Well, when she was taking care of the kids, she has this very kind, loving, like these children meant for her life and meant everything to her. But then in a crisis, it was like she would get this wild look, and she had a reputation for being very aggressive and she was very narcissistic, and she knew more than anybody and loved the media and loved the attention. So everything really changed after, and I kept telling them, I kept telling my family that, she did something to her.
And you actually saw this woman at your daughter's grave one day.
Yes. But after Chelsea died, I spent a lot of time. I would go every day, and I went there to put some fresh flowers on, and she was there, and she was just rocking back and forth, wailing. That's the only word to use, was wailing. And I asked her what she was doing, and she literally just looked at me, and she had this glassy-eyed look, and she just walked right past me and didn't even respond to it. She never responded to it.
God. When there's obviously this concerted effort to try to prove this woman killed other children, she's suspected in the deaths of more than 40 other kids. Prosecutors think that she may have killed up to 46 kids. If there's anyone out there who might have any information that will keep your daughter's killer behind bars, what do you want to say to him?
I want them to not be afraid to come forward, because this isn't just about Chelsea anymore. This is about all the families and all the children in San Antonio that died that shouldn't have, and they need their justice too, and they need their stories told, because the only difference between their situation and Chelsea's is where the San Antonio hospital chose to cover it up and not do anything about it and send her about her way with a good reference. The Kerrville hospital decided something's wrong and decided to do something about it. So those babies and those families, they need a voice.
Yeah. Well, Petty, thank you so much for speaking up tonight, and I hope it helps, and we'll continue to follow this, because it's unthinkable to think of this woman getting out there. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Anderson. I appreciate it.
All right, stay strong. Still ahead, we're going to meet a homeowner who was forced out by wildfires. We got some good news tonight, and we're learning more about how badly wounded the Boston bombing suspect was before his arrest.